Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion is a faithful remaster of the PSP title. Everything that was good about the PSP version remains intact, and everything that was bad about the PSP version also remains intact. Essentially, what this is this is a remaster that everyone would kind of want, where it's the exact same game, but with the graphics being redone and essentially looking like the game's on steroids. If you haven't noticed, the visuals, although not as good as the Final Fantasy VII Remake, is still very impressive, and it's a beautiful looking game. You may have noticed by watching the gameplay that the combat is actually the inspiration used for Final Fantasy VII Remake's gameplay, which is why there's a lot of similarities. They did modernize this game's gameplay to fit more with the remake, but it's very minor that if you played the PSP version and you're playing this now, you may not even remember or even notice it. That being said, what is here is the precursor to Final Fantasy VII Remake. It follows the story of Zack, which is obviously he's a character that is explained in the original game as backstory, and the events of this game will lead into the events of Final Fantasy VII. Everything about this game is intact, and obviously, if you're unfamiliar, there are certain things that do obviously carry over into the remake. What do I mean by this is, for example, the way you unlock summons in this game is the exact same way you unlock them in Final Fantasy VII Remake. You have to fight the summon in a side mission, beat the summon, and then you'll get access to using the summon. The big difference between this and the remake, and you may have noticed, is the roulette system on the left side. That roulette system is what is used to level up your magic, to get your limit breaks, and to also use your summons. Now, keep in mind that you have no actual control over what happens in that roulette system. It is actually very random. You could play the game and not even notice it. But it is there, and that is the main difference. Whereas in Final Fantasy VII Remake, you actually had to take damage to be able to fill up the meter and then get the summon. Speaking of the summons, in my opinion, Crisis Core to this day still has the best, or one of the best, summon animations of any Final Fantasy. I don't care if you're summoning Bahamut, Ifrit, or Odin, or what have you, their animations is top tier. But I also said that this game inherited the flaws. So there was two main flaws with Crisis Core originally. Number one, because it was on PSP hardware, there is a boatload of load screens because every area is a small area broken up into multiple sections. This is done because of the limitations. Being a remaster, it follows suit. Now, I was playing on a PS5, so the load times were very, very short, and they are there because, again, it is a PSP game, so it's impossible to not notice it. The other issue is the abundance of random battles. Essentially, there is a boatload of random battles all over the place. Yes, you can run away from them, but it can get tedious. A pro tip from me, who obviously this is my third time beating this game, the pro tip is if you want to dodge the random battles, here's your pro tip: run along the wall of whatever area you're in. If you run along that wall, you will avoid more random battles, as in they won't even trigger, and you can just keep going. Bear in mind, by not doing the random battles, you may hinder your progress in terms of leveling up Zack and getting stronger as you go because you're fighting less. One of the other things that is here is the materia system. Now, the materia system is exactly as you would expect it to be, with one little twist. In Crisis Core, there's something called materia fusion, where you have to take two pieces of materia and an item, if you so wish, and fuse it together to get another spell. This is how you would go from Cure to Cura to Cura to Curega, etc. You would have to find combinations, and if you master them, they will obviously give you a better upgrade. So that is the gist of what is in the game. There is one other caveat that I had with this remaster, and that is the cutscenes. Not that the cutscenes weren't amazing. The cutscenes back in the PSP version were some of the best cutscenes and some of the badass moments, but they ripped them directly from the PSP version without actually cleaning it up. So therefore, there are moments where when you're watching it, you'll see that some of the shadows look off, some of the lighting looks off, because it's still from PSP hardware. And all they did was basically copy and paste that file, and they didn't actually go into it and like re-render the cutscenes to fix those little quirks. But overall, as a fan of this game, this was my third time completing it. Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII is a game that should not be missed. Whether you are a returning player who's played it on the PSP or you've never played it before, this game is absolutely fantastic. And in my opinion, this is also one of my personal favorite Final Fantasies, as it ties to Final Fantasy VII, but also Zack is one of the coolest characters, and so is Genesis. Overall, I'm giving Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion a 9 out of 10. This is Veteran Gamer, and I hope to see you guys next time.